Hello Sagittarius, welcome to the Plaid Oracle. For this round of readings, I've been pulling a card from Brian Froud's Faeries Oracle and using that as a basis. You have the Singer of Connection. And if you read the guidebook, you know, this is about the interconnectedness of all things in nature and the universe. But I feel like in your case, it's talking about you making a connection. I was sort of going over your, the readings you've had up till this point. And there's a couple of things happening. One, there's coming to terms with, being yourself, right? The last reading when you were the anomaly. And the reading before that asked you to be willing to change, to be willing for things to be different. But I really feel you struggling, Sagittarius. I feel you're struggling. It's as if you're, moving against a strong headwind or against a strong current. And it may be that you are associating this resistance with external factors. And for sure, there are possibilities, right? Lots of candidates for external factors that could be, getting in your way in the current world. But I think you're being asked to find the internal connection for this. There's something, Sagittarius, that you are ignoring, repressing, suppressing, refusing to look at, even if you know it's there. We start with this 10 of water. And, this is the 10 of cups, which is normally, happiness, fulfillment. But, in this card, you are, you're kind of hiding in there. Or some aspect of you is hiding. And actually underneath that is this messenger of water. And I have the sense that this is emotional information that wants to come in, that wants to find you, deliver its message. And you are very studiously, and perhaps very consciously, avoiding it. We have this council of all beings. And this feels like, kind of what one would expect. It feels like spirit, like all of creation, all of your family. And it may include, people in the physical world, as well as our guides, our fellowship in the non-physical. And I don't want to say that they're waiting, That implies a certain kind of expectation or, sort of foot tapping kind of thing, that they're waiting, but they are sort of expectant, they are ready. They are in readiness for you to acknowledge whatever it is that you are avoiding looking at. And this, right, this wisdom keeper in particular is waiting. Or, right, in readiness. You are not alone. Right? There is a community of beings, possibly both physical and non-physical, who can support you in this process. But I still feel this, I don't know, this reluctance. And this, right, this is the Witch of Air, theoretically a powerful character. The Queen of Air in this deck. But here, right, today, in this reading, she's looking apprehensive, anxious. It's like she's, turned suddenly to see what's behind her. It's like she's felt, a prickling on the back of her neck, and she's turning suddenly to see what's behind her. That something is encroaching on her space. So next we have this High Priestess, kind of often the symbol of mystery and hidden information. But she is always prepared to share her information when you make yourself available. But you, Sagittarius, in another 10 card, this time the 10 of Wands, you are not wanting to come out. For me, this is the come out from under the kitten card. I think since it's the 10 of Wands, the kitten is meant to represent a weight that you're carrying. But to me, it always looks as if this character is sheltering under the kitten. Right? Afraid to come out. And I don't know that this is, your conscious mind necessarily, Sagittarius. We then have this 3 of Swords. And again, there's this, right, this feeling of anxiety, perhaps even fear, the sort of looking over the shoulder energy, kind of wildness, deer in the headlights, stricken look. And then there's this Tower, which for me always looks like somebody's flipped it open, like a box with a secret inside of it. Opening the box. And there is an aspect of you, Sagittarius, you are a move forward, gallop into the breach kind of character. You may not be quite as impulsive as Aries, right? Aries is always, right, the first into the breach. But you do like to go, to just do it. To act on that fiery intuition. And your heart is absolutely ready to do so. Knight of Cups. And in this deck, a dynamic, rushing in sort of figure. Ready to leap into the air to send her crow mount flying. So your heart is with you, Sagittarius, as always. We talk about heartbreak, but a lot of what we call heartbreak is really sort of mind break. Expectations that are disappointed. You know, a betrayal of trust can feel like a heartbreak, but the heart is much stronger than that, I think. I think real heartbreak happens more internally, right? When we cut ourselves off, perhaps from connection with others, perhaps from our own dreams, when we force the heart into silence. I think that's really where heartbreak comes from. But our minds, you know, are tender things, I think. We don't think of it that way, right? The sword of air. But air can be easily displaced, blown about. And a storm of air can leave wreckage, you know, like a tornado or a hurricane. Those feelings that we experience because of our thoughts, right? That's really what the Three of Swords is about. It's about thoughts that cause suffering. Certainly we experience grief when we've had a loss. But the suffering that we can subject ourselves to with our own thoughts, that's the really, really painful stuff, and what prolongs grief and prolongs suffering. And we can also prolong grief and suffering by ignoring things, by being unwilling to face something. And I feel, Sagittarius, that this may not be so much about the trauma of childhood as maybe it's sort of the trauma of adulthood a little bit, right? The trauma that comes from disappointment, right? Maybe from doing all the right things for a long time and still not having that, you know, promised perfect life. That might be, right? That might be part of it, or it could be, right? Or it could be something else. I don't really know. The specifics are nebulous. I don't know what the secret is, right? We get the moon, and right under that, the Hermit. This particularly internal Hermit, pulling back into the shell there. And below that is the Ten of Swords. We then have this Daughter of Swords. And She may be, I feel like she's an aspect of you that has been very vigilant about not allowing this, whatever this piece of information, this set of thoughts, this belief, but there's something that you've been unwilling to look at and come to terms with, Sagittarius. And it's going to continue, right, to cause you problems. Right? This is a particularly disturbing Nine of Swords. Definitely a nightmare sort of Nine of Swords. I mean, how easily do you end up in this space, Sagittarius? Do you find that recently you've been, you know, it doesn't take very much to tip you over into this space? That even if you've been going along feeling really pretty good, that, you know, a relatively small thing can tip you over into this space? And here too is this, right, this Daughter of Pentacles, and today looking very vulnerable. Right, again, the deer in the headlights. Feeling of not wanting, right, not wanting illumination. Right, there's a bit of side eye going on here between this fawn and this torch. But this is you, Sag. Right? The torch of illumination, of knowledge. And then we have this Mother of Pentacles. Earth. And traditionally, your neighbor in Capricorn. And that may be something, you know, at the time that I'm recording this, we've just had a full moon in Gemini. And this may be a point of illumination for you. This deer in the headlights aspect. You know, I kind of picture this panther hiding from a spotlight that might be passing over. This, you know, because the full moon, right, reflects the light of the sun. And the sun is in Sagittarius. It may be that something really has been illuminated for you and it's become more difficult to ignore. To keep that information out. But this Mother of Pentacles is kind of, is part of the answer. It's calling on your own inner earth, invoking that part of yourself that is Capricorn and Taurus and Virgo. We all have all of these signs in our charts, even if there's no planets in their spaces. We all have Earth, an inner core of stability. But in order for us to be able to use it, we have to be willing to, you know, really see everything. All of the stuff in our psyche, in our personal history, and wherever this thing that you don't want to look at is. You know, it may be that you want to be even more different than you thought. You know, if you watch the anomaly video, it may be that you thought you were just kind of cool, just a little not normal, a little weird, kind of interesting. But it may be that the difference is greater than that. It may be that you find you disagree with an entire host of things that people have been telling you. Or that you want to go and do something that's really different in some way, or at least different from, you know, what you grew up with. It may even be that you want to do something really normal. It kind of depends on where you're standing, Sagittarius. Right? You might be the Alex P. Keaton of your household. You know, wanting to be an accountant, or a school teacher, or you know, something else that would appear very mundane to your, you know, to the people around you, right? Who might expect you to be, you know, a shaman or an artist. You know, I don't know where you're standing, Sagittarius, what are the lines for you that you're being encouraged to draw outside of? There can be all kinds of uniforms. They don't have to look the way we expect a uniform to look. And there may also be something deeper than that. That may be true for some of you. That there's some hurt, some memory, some aspect of yourself that you find deeply disturbing in some way. And Sagittarius is often, you know, depicted as the happy-go-lucky sign, you know, that just trips through life. Everybody wants to be Sag. But that's a superficial assessment. We are all deeply complex. And here in these cards, we start with this polar bear. But, right, there's this hand on the other side. It's as if the polar bear is part person and part polar bear. And then this theme continues with this person and the owl. This eagle woman. And then this figure surrounded by dolphins and sea creatures. There's an infant in this shell, this nautilus shell. So this complexity that perhaps you haven't associated with yourself. You think of yourself as being really simple, right? You just want what you want. You're just gonna, you know, fire your arrow and go after this thing that you want. If only the world would stop getting in your way. only you, can stay on track. But I think you were being asked to make the connection between your frustration, between your anxiety, between, perhaps your restlessness, your sleeplessness, your sense of perhaps being lost. I think you're being asked to make the connection to something that's happening within you. To look at yourself in all the deep complexity that you have. And to make, right, to I don't want to say make peace, to understand, right, what it is within you that perhaps is trying to be expressed. And your advice is to let the Tower happen. Because it may be that part of your fear is that if you really look at this thing, that everything is just going to come crashing down. That this world that you've built that seems to be, that you're ready to go on with, this this sunny life that you want, will come crashing down if you let whatever this is be seen. If you really take a proper look at it, then maybe suddenly, right, everything's going to change and you won't be able to continue on as you have been. And so, right, the Seven of Swords, right, hiding thoughts from yourself. You have to, right, stop hiding thoughts from yourself. You have to be willing to, right, to see things, to see both things, even, right, whatever it is you like to see, as well as the thing you don't like to see. You have to be willing to enter these waves, right, that are happening behind this juggler. Right, there's a ship here on a peak of a wave and it's about to come down into the trough. Right, so the willingness not only to change, but to be uncomfortable. And to look at whatever seems really disturbing. Right, that's where transformation lies. I think you are, right, Sagittarius, I think would be good, right, at stepping away from things, right, at transforming. You're a mutable sign. But in order to leave things behind, we kind of have to know what they are. I mean, we might not have to know every last detail, but we can't, right? We can't really leave something behind. We can't allow something to die if we refuse to see it, because then its tendrils will always remain with us. So that's the deal, Sagittarius. I don't know, I was sort of hoping, that I would have a really uplifting, cheerful, Sagittarius-like video for you. But this kind of message seems to be repeating. And I don't know if you've, been creating a kind of rosy colored view for yourself. I think there's a real use to rose colored glasses. But we do have to be willing to take them off sometimes, to not walk around in them all the time. When something is off, when our intuition doesn't seem to be operating, when we feel a lot of resistance, when we feel the inclination to blame or to hide, to either overfunction or underfunction, all of these are signs that something is out of alignment. And that's an internal thing. I mean, for sure, we can help ourselves by, not doom scrolling and spending hours and hours on the internet and going down rabbit holes and spending time with people who are deeply pessimistic or, enjoy catastrophizing. We don't have to wade deeply into the morass. But we do have to have enough steadiness and resilience that when we come into contact with these things, that they don't overset us easily. And that comes from internal stability. And internal stability comes from honesty with oneself. And a willingness to really, examine something that's trying to come up. And they may be coming up in various events in our lives, in problems with our bodies, problems with our relationships. Right? Manifestations will show up even if you're not looking at whatever it is. So Sagittarius, all I can say to you is look at it. I don't know what it is. It's something that you're avoiding. Something. And I do feel like you have some idea of what it is. That you aren't completely in the dark. And that's partly what's causing a lot of anxiety. But it may be something that you've, studiously avoided thinking about for a really long time, so that it, so that it feels hidden. That it feels like a complete mystery. But you may be able to, sort of look at what's happening in your life and, kind of track it back in that way, if it still feels hidden to you. And see, and what are the things that trigger you the most in the world. I wish you all of the very best, Sagittarius. I want you to find your fire and your target and to be off running exuberantly and joyfully. To be on the adventure. Oh, and so the other thing, before I emphasis, there is support, yes. Your own guides, people that you know, friends, family, possibly professional people. There are those who can help you if you need it. And do ask for help, Sagittarius, if you need it. And be well. I'll see you next time. So long, Sagittarius.